Hey everyone, welcome to my first ever podcast. I decided that I was going to try out a podcast kind of talking show kind of thing, mainly because I found that on my radio show with MMH Radio, which is every Thursday, I do tend to sometimes go off on a little tangent and talk about kind of some of the latest news within the music industry, but my show is definitely mainly catered towards listening to the tracks, rock and metal in particular, and I didn't want to cloud up the whole show with me kind of rambling on when it's kind of not what the audience I have wants when they come and tune in. They want the music, so I was like, what else can I do? I really don't have the time to do a regular and whole other show on top of my week as it is, so I thought doing kind of an irregular as and when I can kind of podcasting on my YouTube channel would be perfect. So this is the Creature Podcast number 1. We're going to be talking about a couple of things today. I'm going to try and not make it as long as normal podcasts are, because usually they can be kind of like an hour, and I know that can be quite a lot of time commitment for people. Not everybody likes listening to something for an hour. Some people prefer like 40 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever, so I'll see how I go, but I'll make sure it's under an hour. For all you guys who like podcasts and stuff, so what I'd like to focus on really with this is like music industry news, obviously more in like the rock and metal scenes, as opposed to kind of the widespread pop chart music, because that's just the kind of part of the industry that I'm in. That's where my interests lie, and that's where that's what I know more about. So thank you for listening to my first ever Creature podcast. I'm Courtney Black, and today we are going to be focusing on two things, two very, very big things that have come up in the music industry right now. First of all is the departure of Tommy Vext from Bad Wolves, and we're also going to talk about Marilyn Manson and everything that's going on with that. Obviously, guys, the things that I talk about are very much up for discussion, and what I do and what I would like to do is kind of give an almost unbiased point of view for you guys. I'm going to discuss different points, but I think probably not so much even sides with the Marilyn Manson case, because it is a very strong topic and it's something that I believe very much, quite heavily in, and it is very important, some of the allegations and things that have gone on there, and it's just one of those topics where it's not really about taking sides. It's very serious. So, but before we get to that, we're going to start with talking about Tommy Vext and his departure from Bad Wolves. So there's a reason why I really wanted to talk about this actually, and that is mainly because I did feel quite reserved, and I did feel quite negatively towards the video that Tommy put out on Instagram. I no longer have Twitter, so I don't know if it was on Twitter, but I know that it was an Instagram live, and then he added the kind of statement video to his Instagram page, and I felt very negatively, and I've since then kind of possibly seen another point of view from it, but I still am unsure whether my own opinion has changed about the video as a whole. So basically it starts off, Tommy's kind of sat there and he goes on about, he believes in not being censored, and he believes in equality and, togetherness, and, that is something that has been a very big theme in a lot of his music and a lot of his music videos and his kind of, whole career in music, I'd say, especially in Bad Wolves. And so you're kind of thinking at the beginning, oh yeah, I do agree, and especially this was around, everything that happened with Trump and the White House and Capitol building and all that stuff. So it was like, yeah, right, okay, yeah, totally agree, that's relevant. But then he goes on to admit basically that he is a Trump supporter, and he's going, as an African American, this and that, and I kind of stop and I think, hold on. So the President Trump, who is probably the most racist, fascist, sexist horrible person in my eyes. You support him, and because Trump was removed from Twitter, you know, he's been banned by pretty much all social media platforms and like Spotify and stuff, because people are just finally like, right, yeah, I do not even want you as a customer ever. I do not want to ever be associated with you on that smallest scale, because how racist and just horrible you are. And then here's an African American man who says he supports him, and there's a big thing that doesn't compute in my head with that. It just, I don't understand how anyone from like an ethnic minority could support someone who has been so openly disgusting. But anyway, that is another part for another day. But then Tommy goes on to kind of talk about, obviously he's been departed from the band, he's left the band, but he kind of gives hint to the fact that the record label no longer kind of wanted him because of his kind of political views, aka being a Trump supporter, and then he kind of, you know, he goes on, you know, I've raised this much money, it's either, I think it was $350,000 or something for charity over his career, or it was $250,000 over his career for charity and stuff. I'm like, okay, we know that. Badwater's been great for charity and a really big voice and advocate for things like that. But then he kind of ends the video with, basically he's got this really big bill to pay off. Basically the lease for a studio, but because he's left the band, he obviously now still has the bill to pay, and because he's not in the band anymore, he won't have the money to do so. So he goes on to say that he's got a crowdfunder page, and the crowdfunder page is to help pay off the bill, and everyone who donates, whether it's $1 or $100, doesn't matter how much, he'll give you the next album for free, his solo album, which he's now got 37 tracks from over lockdown to put towards, from a range of you know, producers and, you know, songwriters and this and that. And crowdfunding is a brilliant tool. It's a credible tool, and for musicians and bands that can utilise that tool, I think it's great. I really do. As long as you are giving back fairly, as long as what you are raising money for is fair, I think go ahead, great, it's fantastic. But the thing is, with Tommy's statement, I just didn't feel that asking his fans to pay this bill off was particularly fair, because the thing is that I thought it was maybe $3,000, $5,000 or something, but no, I looked on the crowdfund and he was asking to raise, his goal to raise on this crowdfunding website was $56,000. And the thing is that he has so many hundreds of fans, thousands of fans, that really love and respect him that much that they will give him $10, $20 here, $50, even $100. They will. People will pay it. And lo and behold, he'd probably already raised a third or something in the time that I'd checked the page and went to see it. And the thing is, for me, obviously it's a bill that he wouldn't have been able to afford alone, but I just think to myself, you're asking your fans a lot. That is a lot of money to just suddenly get a load of other people to pay off for you. I found it a little disrespectful. Yeah, fine, you'd be getting a free album, but it just seemed unfair to me. I just didn't agree entirely with the fact that he was asking fans to pay off this huge bill for him. Whether or not he was expecting people to or not is another matter. I obviously don't know the guy personally, but to just be like, oh yeah, here's this bill, I know all these people will help raise a lot of money for it, but I'll chuck them an album which will only be like, a couple of dollars or something per unit to make. Easy money, especially when someone's flogging £100 your way, or $100 your way, do you know what I mean? So for me it was, I didn't find it particularly cool. I didn't take that very well. I mean, as a diehard fan, we've all got our favourite bands, our favourite artists, that we would spend our last pound spare pound on getting a new t-shirt, on getting the latest limited edition this and that, to get things signed, to get meet and greets, gig tickets, obviously when we're not in a pandemic setting, of course, but we are kind of the people that, we're raw, relatively average people living average lives, average jobs, getting average money. Maybe you are in a good place with your career and everything, and you're earning a bit more and you can afford a bit more. Maybe you're a young person, maybe you're a teen, maybe you've only got a part-time job, but you will give your favourite band as much as possible just to get their latest album, just to get their new merch, just to afford that gig ticket, even if it's the cheapest, most rubbish seat somewhere in a huge arena or something. We are there whenever there's anything new going on, and I just feel like turning around and being like, yeah, I've left the band, but now I've got this huge debt. Do you want to give us a hand paying it off? I felt there was a little bit of a disrespect thing going on there. I felt quite passionately that way when I first heard it. Whether I feel as strongly about it now or not, I don't know. I'm still very much on the fence. So if you guys have another opinion, you see it from a different way, I do invite you to leave a comment. Because it's always great to learn from another point of view, and like I said, crowdfunding is a great and powerful tool, and it's a really good example of people coming together to help support others. And I do not think that just because you're a musician or whatever, you shouldn't get to use it, because it works and people can support you for as much or as little as they feel the need. I just felt that having such a goal on a crowdfunder of $56,000 was quite an astonishing amount of money to even ask someone else to help pay. It just didn't sit right with me. But like I said, feel free to chip in with a different perspective if that is what you have, because I'm all ears. I would love to learn. Maybe you'll say something that I will learn from and see in a different light, and maybe I'll have a different opinion, you don't know. But that is kind of what I wanted to bring to light and think about, really, with the regards to Tommy Vext's leave. It did come as a shock, but at the same time, I think that the rest of the band they still seem on social media to be in very high spirits and being very active, thinking about new merch designs and doing a lot of things on social media. So they do seem very calm and collective. And yeah, I'm sure this will definitely not be the end of Battles. They're just getting started. Tommy's going to go off and do his own thing for a little while, even with a restraining order looming over his head from his ex, but that is a story for another time, something you should probably look up yourself separately, because like I said, it's another thing and it's another discussion entirely, but feel free to look that up if you so wish. Right, so yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments what you thought. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about today really was the Marilyn Manson stuff. Now, today, or around this kind of time, depending on when you were listening to this podcast, we finally hear from Wood about her. Basically, there were some things that was said kind of recently about an abuser that she had, and just bear in mind she is Marilyn Manson's ex, and there was a lot of speculation about who it would be that she was referring to, about some very graphic, torturous abuse that she went through emotionally, physically, but everyone was kind of already thinking it was going to be Marilyn Manson, and she has now officially announced the name and confirmed it being Marilyn Manson. And the thing is, I've seen a lot of comments online already saying horrible things to her. And the fact of the matter is that it's absolutely ridiculous and disgusting that there are people out there who will genuinely abuse victims of abuse further online by calling them liars, whores, disgusting things, just for coming clean and telling the truth and telling their side of the story, because fans are overly obsessed with their favourite bands and artists, like so much that I get it. So many people in the alternative music scene have had to drop their favourite artists because they've turned out to be like sexual predators or, you know, just abusive, horrible people. Like, it just seemed to come one after another, and it does hurt because you've put so much time, love and effort into supporting these people, and to suddenly find out that they are not who you thought they could be, it does hurt. You feel betrayed, but that doesn't mean we should lash out at victims of abuse, of any kind of abuse. It's so important that we band together, because why would you want to continue supporting somebody who, when they're meant to love somebody, does something like that to them? And there is evidence out there. Everyone's not the only person to have come forward with a story. Metal Hammer released an article, online article, which you can read, about their interview with Marilyn Manson. They brought up some questions regarding it and he refused to answer. I understand that might be for lawful legal purposes, but at the same time it doesn't really help the case much either. And so many people say, you know, oh, well, you would have guessed, wouldn't you? Why did nobody guess this? I mean, just look at him, look at the music he makes, Marilyn Manson this, he looks creepy, he does this, he does that. And the thing is that no one knows what these people look like. The most horrible and abusive people look like you and me, look like the most average Joe ever. But they end up being, I don't know, paedophiles, rapists, abusers, violent people. I mean, watch any serial killer or murder documentary on Netflix, you know, Ted Bundy, or even look at Rob Zombie. You know, his art form is literally necrophilia, and he's not going around doing what Marilyn Manson's been doing. Sherry Moon Zombie, I think she's a perfectly happy, nice, lovely lady, and none of that's been going on. So you can't judge a book by its cover. It's got nothing to do with Marilyn Manson dressing the way he does, music videos, music the way they've done it, you know. That's a ridiculous thing to say, and a completely narrow-minded thing to say. And I think as well, sometimes people, like with abuse, so many people on this case and many other cases have turned around and said, you know, something along the lines of, why didn't they do anything at the time? Why were they posting about everything being so nice and happy at the time? You know, they didn't do this at the time. The thing is that when you're being abused or with someone who's narcissistic and things like that, you almost don't really understand or realise straight away what's happening to you when you're being manipulated and belittled and things like that. It's really hard to kind of break out of, especially if you kind of don't realise that it's happening. And Evan Wood has stated that she was manipulated and things like that throughout the relationship. But the thing is that loads of people have also said that, because they were both into BDSM and stuff like that, that, you know, she's just making it up because, you know, it was like part of what they did, and that is absolutely incorrect. There are still many respectful not guidelines, but, you know, things that are put in place, boundaries that are put in place in the relationship, so that both people still feel safe. It's still, you know, made up to a degree, you know, safe words, things are discussed heavily before anything happens, and that is the right way to do stuff like that. And obviously this isn't what has happened here, there's just, you know, this isn't like the Johnny Depp case, you know. I knew something was up with that Johnny Depp case when it came to light, and everyone jumped on the cancel culture of Johnny Depp hype. There was just something about it. I just didn't sit right, and I was like, no, I know I don't know him personally, but something is weird about that. And obviously it's now been confirmed that he didn't do it and she lied. And I don't know, I just had this gut feeling, you know. But I feel like with Manson, it did hurt, and it was a shock when I first ever heard about this, because it just felt like there's all these artists that have just been letting everybody down. They're just letting so many people down, so many fans. And it's just bizarre to me that all these allegations come out from some of these people from past victims, and their other halves are still there, like nothing's happened. You know, finding out about these tour stories and things that have happened with minors, and then they've still got wives. Why haven't they left? I don't think I could do that. It's bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. But again, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments as well. It's a very touchy subject, but I think that, like I say, it's not something. This kind of topic isn't just about taking sides. This is not about taking sides. We need to be showing our support in the right places. It's really, really important that we talk about these things, because it happens a lot in the music industry. It happens a lot at gigs and festivals, you know, and people think that they can get away with it. People think that they can get away with stuff like this, and this is why it's important to talk about. And you might sit there and think that you are darn sick of hearing about stuff like this, but the thing is that if that's your thought on it, and that's it, you close that door, done, you just want it, you know, don't want to hear about it anymore, then you're kind of part of the problem. This censorship on things that really fuck people up, that really just, you know, they scar people for life. They can make people into somebody else. You know, it could be somebody you know. It could have, you know, happened to a relative, a friend, or it could do. And we need to all be advocates against this kind of behaviour, and thinking that it's just all right to just get away with stuff, no matter how long it takes someone to come forward, because it's hard to come forward about stuff like this, important stuff, because you're not just thinking about yourself and the safety of yourself. You think about, what about my parents? What would my parents think? You know, if this happened to me, how distraught and upset would they be? What would they do? Would they think about wanting to take their own revenge? Because I know that there'd be some parents out there that would. There'd be some parents out there that would just be like, I would kill him. There are some dads out there that would do that. That animal instinct would come out, whether they meant it or not. In that time, that's how they would feel. That's what they would say. And then what about your friends? What about if someone doesn't believe you? What about you lose friends? Who's going to judge you? What about siblings, if you've got any? And then, when it's Marilyn Manson, who's going to believe you? What's going to happen in the press? How many Manson fans are going to come out in the hundreds, maybe even thousands, and abuse you online? And what point are you going to break? What point are you going to absolutely break down because you can't take it anymore? Because there are some 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, whatever, 40-year-old men who don't believe you. 50-year-old miserable woman sat there in her house on her phone, doesn't believe you. They're going to absolutely grind on you. And amongst all the people that are supporting you and have your back, there are going to also just be, you know, people out there that just want to cause harm. And that is a lot to think about. That is a lot of pressure on yourself. It's not a nice thought, it's not a nice experience for anybody. You think sometimes you've got a couple of little people on Facebook that just disagree with something that you've commented on and whatever. But think about it in the masses. Could you take that? I mean, this is why, for those that know me, know I loved The Upward. They were like in my top 5 bands. I loved their music. I loved listening, dancing to their music. They were like the energy band that I just had that always got me in a good mood, really feeling energized, and they were just different. And then there was all that story about them grooming that girl. But after I kind of saw that, I actually saw with my own eyes a video of them at it was like a music festival. It might have been in America, but it might be somewhere else. It wasn't the UK. But yeah, so it was like they were in like the kind of back part of the festival where all the artists are. That's where all the artists kind of hang out and stuff, where all their tents were, like their, party tents and stuff. And there's this one, I can't remember the name of the artist, I would have to look it up. But there was another artist, and he was very openly known to be gay. And the two of them, Yolandi and Ninja, they ended up throwing things at him, shouting homophobic things at him, like totally unprovoked. It was like them two and like whoever was filming or whatever, they were like running around. But yeah, they were like shouting abuse at him, they were chasing him, running after him, and he was like running away because they were chucking stuff at him and obviously being very aggressive towards him. So eventually I think they give up and run off, and then Yolandi kind of turns around and starts fake crying, and I'm assuming it's like some kind of organizer or promoter or something of the festival. They basically are like, oh yeah, we're gonna go talk to him and basically say that he tried to touch Yolandi up. This lie they created, that's what they did, that he came over and she was gonna put some fake tears on. So there's the filming still going on, and it's like someone's phone or something, I don't know. And they go over to like this tent, there's a lot of people, it's very busy, and they kind of find whoever they're looking for, some guy. And she's kind of like fake crying next to Ninja, and they're basically like, yeah, like he would like assaulted me and stuff, and she kind of fake cried, and obviously they're taking it really seriously. It's a big allegation to make against someone, so they all go off and try and find him. But you see, if you watch all the footage, it's completely put on. I don't even know if it's still on the internet anymore. It was on YouTube, and then I'm assuming it might have been taken down by lawyers and things like that. But yeah, I saw it before it got taken down, and I was like, these people were a huge part of my life musically, and I was so happy that I got to see them live even once, and then to see this, to witness it with your own eyes, what they did and what they were capable of doing and what they were willing to do, and for what do they gain? And I'm so glad that so many people have stood up now and been just completely boycotted them and disowned them, because what kind of behaviour is that? It's just disgusting that other human beings can do this to other human beings. What drives somebody and fuels so much hatred towards somebody else that you feel the need to not only chase them off, but then make an allegation against them afterwards for the shits and gigs, for the lols, for whatever? And that's why some other guys running around with them filming it, and then it happens to go on YouTube. What in the world? What in the world is going on in people's heads? What drives people to be so malicious and violent towards other people for being gay? I don't know, but let me know in the comments what you thought. I know that this first podcast has been quite negative, very pessimistic, But I do feel like these are topics that are important to talk about, especially in the music scene, in the music industry, where this stuff goes on. This is reality. This is the horrible, harsh reality that we have to deal with, especially when choosing whether or not to continue to support artists after they do things like that. Like, you can be a shitty, grumpy person, you know, and still make good music and still have fans, and you just happen to be a not particularly nice person, or maybe a bit moody in real life, you know. But when it steps over that line into abuse, maliciousness, and just kind of taking the piss out of people, really using your fans as you know, to your advantage in certain ways, it's dangerous and it's detrimental, and I think that these are things that we should discuss. And you know, we should be able to identify when people take the piss, and we should be able to identify when, you know, there comes a time when we should no longer be supporting people's work through, you know, actions that they have committed. I think that this is a subject that is not talked about anywhere near enough. Again, I'm sorry if this has kind of bored you, and I'm sorry if this isn't kind of a first podcast that has kept you very interested, but I definitely, again, like I say, feel like it is important to talk about nonetheless. So we'll see how things go with the Manson case, and we will see how things go with battles. Good luck to them, and good luck to best well wishes for Tommy as well, going solo, even if I do kind of question maybe some of his political views, and certainly how I kind of feel about the fundraiser. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you guys maybe are interested in what I talk about next time. I promise it'll be a little more kind of lighthearted, but again, like I say, I'll say it time and time again, these things are important. These are very important. Thank you guys. And if you want to check out my my radio show that I do every Thursday over on MMH Radio, it's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every week, listening to the best in rock and metal, and sometimes I play a little bit of indie if I find there's some hidden gems in there. But for now, thank you, and I will see you next time.